On today's agenda we have good news and bad news. My most recent cast on is going great. It's exactly what I had in mind and I can't wait to share all of that with you today. But my tea project, I'm having some issues with it and there's lots to talk about it, but we'll get to that in a minute. But at least my sweater project is off my needles and I'm really happy with it. It is perfect. So get comfy and let's dive in. Hi there and welcome to episode 9 of the podcast. My name is Luisa, but everyone calls me Lu. And here on the channel I post regular podcast episodes every 2 weeks, talking about everything I'm working on and my projects for the near future. Just before I forget, my summer knitting plans video went out just last week and I had a lot of fun putting all of that together. I talked about 11 patterns, including tees, sweaters, socks, bags, and there's also a little gift knit thrown in the middle of all of that, so go check it out. It is linked down below and I can't wait to cast on every single pattern on that list. Also, well, I had so much fun putting that video together that I'm thinking about making some pattern roundup videos here and there, but we'll see. Anyway, today I'm wearing a little crochet tee that my mom made me a couple of years ago. Let me stand so you can actually see. So this is a crochet tee that my mom made me. I have no idea which stitch pattern this is or the techniques or anything like that. I just know there's a little detail here on the sleeves that I really like, and I also know this is 100% cotton, but I have no idea what yarn this is. So anyway, I really love this tee. Here in my family, my mom and I are the only crafty people around, so I knit and my mom crochets. I've tried to get into crochet a couple of times now, but it's too hard for me. I'm left-handed, and to crochet, well, it requires a lot of your right hand and it requires too much brain space, and I just can't do it, at least not for now, but we'll see in the future if I get into crochet or not. But anyway, this is what I'm wearing today. So now let's talk about the first project of today's video, and that is my Lyon sweater that I finished. So here it is, my Lyon sweater by PetiteKnit. Is completely finished and blocked and everything is ready to wear. So the yarn I used for this project is Knitting for Olive Merino in the colorway Marzipan, which is this lovely light gray, light beige, and Wild Berries, which is a pink shade. So anyway, I held 2 strands together of each color, and this is my final sweater, my final project. So I'm really happy with it. The only thing I don't like is a little detail here on the shoulders, but let me put it on so we can see the fit. So here it is, my Lyon sweater. Let me bring the camera down. So I really love the length, the body length, my sleeves. I love a really long sleeve. And yeah, let me show you the back. So just let's talk about the sleeves, because last time we talked about this project I still had both sleeves left to knit. So I skipped the first 3 decrease rounds here on the sleeves. By my calculations I had to do a decrease round on every pink stripe, so I skipped the first 3 decrease rounds and started here where my green stitch marker is, and in total I did 10 decrease rounds, so I decreased 20 stitches in total. And before I did the 1x1 rib here on the cuff, I switched to my ribbing needle just before I knitted the last row, the last round on my sleeves in stockinette before I started my 1x1 rib, and I finished it off with a Italian bind off, just like the pattern suggests. And I really love the final result and the final look of this sweater. So there's not really much to say about this because I haven't made any modifications to the pattern, I think. aside from length, but that's not really a modification. Now, what I was talking about here on the shoulders, there's this little thing here that is sticking out a bit, and this happens on both shoulders. Here is not as pronounced as it is on the other side, and I don't know if I did something wrong when I was weaving in my ends, because this is where you turn your work. Well, first you cast on stitches here, you pick up stitches here to start knitting the left front or right front anyway, and then you turn your work to pick up stitches on the sides to then continue working on the sweater. So I don't know if I did something wrong when I turned my work, or if I just pulled my yarn too tight when I was weaving in my ends, because I think I had one end on both sides, on each side, so maybe I did something wrong then, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me too much to make me want to go back and fix it. So I'm just going to wear it as is, and if over time it starts bothering me too much, then I'll see if I will do something or not. But this is my Lyon sweater and I really love it, but I'm getting sweaty here. So let's talk about the amount of yarn I used and the cost of this project real quick. So let me get my notes. In terms of yarn, I've used 351 grams of the Marzipan colorway. The pattern calls for 350 grams. So basically the same, but if we convert that to meters, I've used 1,755 meters. Like I said, I held yarn double, so keep that in mind. The pattern calls for 1,645 meters, so I've used a little bit over 100 grams, 100 meters, more than what the pattern calls for. And looking at the Wild Berries colorway, the pattern I've used 100, I almost said 1,000. I've used 157 meters, 157 grams. The pattern calls for 200 grams, so in meters I've used 785 meters. The pattern calls for 940 meters. So looking at the Marzipan colorway, I've used a little bit over 100 grams, 100 meters, more than what the pattern suggests. But looking at my CC colorway, I've used almost 200 meters less than what the pattern suggests. So anyway, just a little bit of information for you. Now regarding the cost, I've paid 82 euros and 19 cents for the yarn. That does not take into consideration my leftovers. I have 2 bows still left untouched from each colorway, so I have one of each here, and the second of each colorway is right over there. So I have in total 4 bows left. That does not take into consideration my leftovers. It's just the amount of yarn I've used to knit up my sweater, and I've paid 6 euros and 98 cents for the yarn, for the pattern. So in total this project cost me 89 euros and 17 cents, which is not too much, but it's not cheap either. But anyway, I am really happy with this project, with the final sweater that I have. I think I'm going to wear this a lot, and I'm really happy with it. It's an everyday piece, basic, but with a little twist with the stripes and the construction. Anyway, now let me take this off because it's too hot outside to wear this. We are back, and let me put my Lyon sweater here. So now it's time for the elephant in the room, and that is my Skyline Tee by Tori Yu. Let me turn the camera so I can show you. This is my, it's looking good. This is my Skyline Tee by Tori Yu. The yarn I'm using for this project is Rowan Cotton Revive in the colorway 005 Moss. I really like this color, and the yarn, I have no complaints about it. It is 80% cotton and 20% other fibers. Now looking at my work in progress here. It looks just fine, but I'm having some fitting issues, but we get to that in a minute. So when we last talked about this project, I was here where the stitch marker is, progress keeper. So I did quite a bit, I worked quite a bit on the body, knitted both sleeves and the collar, but I've made some modifications to the sleeves. So let's talk about it first. I think you can see it like that. So this is a saddle shoulder construction. So when I was picking up stitches to work on my sleeves, I had the saddle stitches here on hold. So I just put it back on my needles and continued with my 3x1 twisted rib pattern here. Now the pattern tells you to knit the first stitch you have on each side of the saddle stitches. But if I were to do that, I would lose the last column here of twisted stitches, because you wouldn't be able to differentiate this last column of twisted stitches from my stockinette fabric. So I just decided to purl the first stitch on each side of the saddles to keep all my 3x1 rib columns here, and I am really glad I did that. I have no regrets about that decision. And last episode I was talking about my ribbing here on the sleeves and also the collar. I still hadn't decided if I wanted to keep my 3x1 rib here on the sleeve ribbing or in the collar, or if I wanted to knit all the stitches in a 3x1 rib pattern, or if I just wanted to keep this 3x1 rib, like go straight down and knit a 1x1 rib in the remaining stitches. But I was so frustrated with this pattern, with this project, that I just decided to knit a 1x1 rib and do an Italian bind off just like the pattern suggests, because if I did a 3x1 rib here on the sleeve ribbing, then how would I do a Italian bind off with 3x1 rib? I'm sure it's doable, but I don't actually know how to do it, and I just didn't have it in me to find out. So I just did a 1x1 rib with some Italian bind off. So since this is let me take this off so I can actually show you. Since this is a twisted rib, I just did a little modification to my Italian bind off process, and that is I just twisted all my knit stitches on my needles before I began my Italian bind off, and I did exactly the same process of a regular Italian bind off with my knit stitches twisted, so that way all my knit stitches on the bind off look twisted as well. And I really love the final look of the bind off doing it that way. I always do this when I am binding off twisted stitches or twisted rib. So I did the same thing for the collar, no modifications, and the same thing on the second sleeves. But before we get to the fitting issues, I wanted to block this before I considered the upper body finished. And I forgot to change my angle here. So I did it. Since this is a 80% cotton yarn, I decided to do a steam block to see if things would improve regarding the fit, and it didn't. But anyway, I wanted to stretch my 3x1 rib here, the saddles. If you hear any crinkling noises, it's my needle stopper here, so sorry for that. But anyway, when I was doing the steam block, I really stretched my saddles, the 3x1 rib here, because I wanted to, well, for once I wanted to have a little bit of extra space on my sleeves. It didn't really work, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I really stretched my saddles, my 3x1 rib, to, well, make the pattern more pronounced. And at first I thought it worked. I took some before and after pictures, so I'll put it here if I can. But at first it really worked. But over time my ribbing here shrank back almost everything that it had stretched. So now if I don't stretch it when I'm showing you my 3x1 rib, you can't really see much of the pattern. I mean, you can, but it's not as pronounced as if I stretch it. But anyway, let me put this on so I can actually show you all the issues I'm having with the fit. Here it is. So I think you can already see what I don't like, and that is here. I have too much fabric here, and I have no idea how to fix this, but well, that is not the only problem. And well, I don't even know where to start. So looking at the sleeves first, it looks a bit tight. I have a black tee underneath, but anyway, it looks a bit tight, but this is 80% cotton, so maybe it will stretch over time. So I'm not really concerned about it, but I don't know if you can see, but the sleeves, the ribbing here is flaring out the tiniest bit, but it is. And also the color, it's flaring out a bit. If I turn, you can really see here, it's flaring out a little bit. But I don't think I can actually complain about it because, like I said, this is 80% cotton, so yeah, I can just thread an elastic if it gets too bad over time. So I'm not really bothered by it. But the main thing is the excess of fabric that I have here. And also, when I blocked this project, one of the things that I wanted to fix was this here. So the pickup line here, you can see the body fabric wants to curl a bit inwards, and I tried to block and see if it would block out. It got a little bit better, but it didn't block all the way. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just so frustrated with this project. I don't know how to fix this excess of fabric that I have here. I thought that this is 80% cotton, so it's quite heavy. So my first idea was to let me just carry on with the body and knit a good chunk of the body and see if it would weight down a bit to maybe help with the fit. But I don't think it did. So yeah, maybe I'm just being too picky, but I don't know. If I turn, you can really see something here on both sides. This side is even worse. You can see here and on the back also. And like I said, the sleeves look a bit tight. It is actually not. I have a little bit of room, but when I just stand, you can't really see anything. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just so frustrated, and I just want this project to be over, honestly. I don't know, maybe I can go back and take a little bit of this fabric off, but it's right up here, so if I want to fix this, I would have to frog all the way back to the saddles and then cast on or pick up not as many stitches as I did for the body. I have no underarm stitches. The pattern doesn't call for any underarm stitches, so maybe that could be the reason I'm having this issue. Maybe, I don't know. This is my first time knitting any project that doesn't require any underarm stitches, so I have no idea if that could be the reason or not. But anyway, I just don't have any way to frog it all the way back to my saddles and knit basically the whole project one more time. So I'm just going to leave it as is and finish the body and wear it like that. If it bothers me too much, or if I just don't wear it at all, then I will go back and do something else, or maybe frog this project and use the yarn for something else, because I really like the yarn. I have no complaints about the yarn. This is 80% cotton, like I said, and I'm having no rolling out issues. My stitches are pretty even. Maybe if I do a wet block and see if the saddles will stretch a little bit, that would give me more room on my sleeves. Maybe that's an idea, or maybe if doing a wet block, this curling here disappears, that would be nice. The only thing where steam blocking really did help was with where woven in my hands. So there's one here that you can't really see it anymore. There's also one about here, somewhere around here, that you can't really see it anymore. So that blocked out quite well. But yeah, the rest of the I don't know. I'm just looking at the viewfinder and I'm so frustrated. Anyway, this is my Skyline Tee. Let me check my notes and see if I forgot anything that I want to share with you. I don't think I did. I don't think I did. So yeah, let me take this off and put my crochet top back on, and we'll talk about the next project. Alright, so my Skyline Tee is just going to stay over here, and the next project is, well, last episode I just showed you a swatch, and now I have the whole upper body done. I mean, not actually done, because I still have the collar and sleeves and, well, ribbing to do, but I turned it around. I mean, not actually, because this is a cardigan. So yeah, I joined front and back. So anyway, let me put it over here on Margot so I can show you this, because it is quite interesting. And now I realize that I haven't actually said the name of the pattern. Anyway, this is the Clematis Sweater by Emma Maier. The yarn I'm using for this project is Malabrigo Sock in the colorway 343 Legend, which is a lovely yarn, really soft and really drapey. So the construction of this project is really interesting. Can you see? Yeah, you can. So this construction is really interesting, and now I can see that 2 of my candles went off, and this is really distracting. I'm back. I just couldn't concentrate when I was looking at the candles. Anyway, so the construction of the Clematis Sweater is quite interesting. You first cast on stitches for the back and knit the whole back panel, which is basically a giant rectangle. Next, you pick up stitches to knit both fronts, but the first front here, the right front, is you knit to this point, basically, well, to this blue marker here that I'm pinching with my fingers, and then you knit the left front just a little bit, knit a third front here on the right, which is just a little strip of fabric, to then connect with the left front and then join them around. It's quite interesting because you create this slanted button band here. Well, I really like this construction, it's quite fun. And the yarn I'm using, like I said, is Malabrigo Sock, which is really soft and a really lovely yarn. I'm really liking the process of working with this yarn. And I did, since this is a hand-dyed yarn, did I show you my 2 balls here? So since this is a hand-dyed yarn, I am knitting from 2 different balls, 2 different skeins. And then I decided to alternate skeins, but this is my first time doing anything like that. So I decided I used both balls, both strands to cast on my stitches. So I held 1 strand of each ball to do the slingshot position for a long tail cast on, which worked quite nicely. then that way I could anchor my 2 balls and just knitted the whole back panel. But like I said, I am alternating skeins and I have no idea how to alternate skeins, if there's a proper technique or not. I'm sure there is, but I just didn't have it in me to go look for one. So I am knitting 2 rows with each ball, and then every time I switch from one ball to the other, I also go 3 stitches to the left. So that creates, let me see if I can show you here on the back, that creates a little bit of, I have some floats here. Can you see? I don't think you can. Let me take this off and show you properly. But I have to get my 2 balls. This episode is all over the place, I'm sorry. But anyway, that creates a little bit of floats here on the back. Well, everywhere actually. But it's not really that fun to do. But it's working out perfectly, I think. I am not getting any color pulling or anything like that. So I'm just going to keep doing it. I don't know if there's a better technique or not. Probably there is, but anyway, this is what I'm doing and it's working out great so far, so I'm just going to keep doing it. So I have just joined front and back and working on the body. Since this pattern is intended for a DK weight gauge, I think it's 1 strand of DK with 1 strand of mohair, and I am using just fingering weight held single. So yeah, I am making a lot of modifications to the pattern. I am basically regrading the whole pattern, but I think it's working out just fine. I am not having any issues with the collar open, the neck opening being too tight or the armhole or anything like that. So yeah, for the next episode I hope to have finished the body, have a finished body, but we'll see, because it's quite a lot of knitting, working on a sweater in a fingering weight yarn. But anyway, I'm having a lot of fun with this project, and yeah, I don't think there's much to say about it. I am still working on my first 2 skeins, so I still have 3 skeins left, and I am not really that concerned about yarn, but I think it's too soon to say. Anyway, this is my clematis sweater so far. Yeah, and I think that's all I have for you today. I think this is going to be a really quick episode. But anyway, I'm just trying to knit as much as I can on my spring knits. This is, I think, the second to last pattern that I had in mind for my spring plans. So I still have 1 tee that I want to cast on, and I already have the yarn, so I just want to get a start on that and jump to my summer plans, my summer knitting, because I'm just too excited to cast on all the projects that I talked about in my summer knitting plans video. So yeah, I just want to get all my spring knits off my needles. But I think that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to share with me what you've been working on, comment down below. I would love to know. And if you're new here, I would love to have you stick around and subscribe for more cozy knitting updates. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!